Welcome to the So That's Why podcast, where we unpack the science behind everyday questions. I'm Jen.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Jamie.
Today we're answering a question that sounds straightforward, but is actually more interesting than you'd expect. Why do we need omega-3? Because let's be honest, we hear about it constantly. It's on food labels, in health headlines, in practically every top 10 supplement list. But when you actually ask people what omega-3 does, you tend to get a vague wave of the hand and something about it being good for you.
That's generous. I think most people's understanding begins and ends with, I should probably be having more of it. It's one of those things we all nod along to without really knowing why.
And here's what makes omega-3 genuinely remarkable, because your body cannot make it. And yet, it's a structural building block of your brain, your eyes, and the membrane of every single cell in your body. Did you know that roughly 40% of the brain's grey matter is made up of one of the specific omega-3 fatty acids?
40% of your brain. I mean, it's not minor. It's not a minor supporting role. It's like the headline act.
I know. And yet, despite it being that critical to health, the average intake across the US and UK is a fraction of what the research suggests it should be. So we're talking about a massive gap between what most people consume and what the science points to. The thing is, because omega-3 isn't classified as a vitamin, which it really should be, deficiency doesn't get the same level of focus.
So nearly half of our brain is built from something that most of us aren't getting enough of. That feels like an important thing to know about.
It definitely does. So let's start with the basics. When we say omega-3, we're actually talking about a family of fatty acids, and the name refers to where a specific chemical bond sits on the molecule. That's quite scientific, isn't it? But the important thing in there is that there are three main types, and they're not all equal.
That's right. I mean, omega-3, it sounds a bit sexier than it really is. It's just a kind of chemistry position, isn't it? But there you go. But yeah, you're right. There are three forms. So there's ALA, EPA and DHA. They're the main forms.
Let's say the names, Chris. Let's say the names.
That's normally Matt normally does that to me, but yeah.
Jamie.
Come on, Chris.
So you're absolutely right. There are three forms, or three main forms of omega-3. We have ALA, EPA and DHA, and they've got very different roles and they're very different for the body. So ALA, which is alpha-linolenic acid, is found in plant foods like flaxseed, chia, walnuts. We have EPA and DHA, EPA being eicosapentaenoic acid, DHA being docosahexaenoic acid. They're the two forms that do the heavy lifting when it comes to health benefits. They're the forms that the body needs, and they're found naturally in microalgae, which is actually the original source in the food chain.
And that's an important distinction, isn't it? Microalgae produce omega-3, the EPA and DHA. The fish accumulate it by eating the algae or eating things that eat algae. So the algae are the primary producer and everything else is secondary.
So the algae are doing all the work and the fish have been taking the credit this whole time.
Pretty much. And we always say we can cut out the middle fish, don't we?
Yeah.
This matters because even though your body can technically convert ALA from plant foods into EPA and DHA, it does it really poorly. So research suggests that, or research has shown that conversion rates are about 5% from ALA to EPA and even less, under 1% from ALA to DHA, with some studies showing conversion doesn't actually always take place at all.
So those figures are really low. So if you're relying solely on flaxseed or chia seeds for your EPA and DHA, you'd need unrealistic quantities to match what you can actually get from an algae-based supplement.
Exactly. So ALA-rich foods are valuable to our health. So walnuts, chia seeds and flax hemp, as I've mentioned, they're all really good, and this should be part of your diet, just not for active omega-3. You need the omega-3 directly in those bioactive forms of EPA and DHA.
Right. And that conversion problem affects everyone regardless of what diet they follow. Whether you eat fish or not, knowing the difference between ALA and the EPA and DHA your body actually uses is pretty fundamental.
Okay, so now we know what omega-3 is. Let's get into what it actually does, because here's where it gets impressive and here's where Chris can geek out. But the heart health evidence is substantial, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And there was a major Cochrane review that looked at 86 randomised controlled trials involving over 160,000 participants. And it found that omega-3 supplementation reduced blood triglyceride levels by about 15%. and decreased rates of death caused by cardiovascular diseases.
And one of the larger studies on this was the VITAL trial, and that followed over 25,000 adults for more than 5 years, and they found that just 1 gram of omega-3 daily produced a 28% reduction in total heart attacks. And for those who weren't getting EPA and DHA already in their diet, the reduction was even larger. It was 40%.
28% from 1 gram a day. That's genuinely significant for something you can take alongside your morning coffee.
Yeah. It is. It's huge. And it firmly answers that question of whether a supplement kind of this big can really make a measurable difference to health.
But omega-3, it isn't just a heart story, is it? You know, DHA, like you mentioned, is a structural component of the brain. And the evidence for cognitive function, it's really building. A review of clinical trials found that omega-3 supplementation improves learning, memory, and blood flow in the brain.
Yeah, and there's a really fascinating piece of research recently published showing that omega-3 supplementation significantly increases brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF, which is a protein crucial for brain structure and cognitive performance.
And omega-3 isn't just maintaining the brain as it is, it's actively supporting the brain's ability to adapt and learn.
Totally, that's a really good way of putting it, actually. And for older adults, higher DHA levels have been linked to better cognitive test scores, with benefits appearing greater when supplementation starts before any noticeable cognitive decline.
There's good mental health research too. A study in 2024, they found that higher DHA levels and what's called the omega-3 index were linked to brain connectivity profiles associated with lower levels of depression and anxiety.
It did, and a separate intervention trial found a significant decrease in anxiety symptoms with daily EPA and DHA supplementation over 12 weeks. What's interesting is that the EPA appears more effective for mood, while DHA is more important for cognition and brain structure.
They're working as a team, right? EPA handles the emotional side, DHA handles the structural side. It's a useful distinction for people trying to understand which type matters for them.
Yeah, you're right. And the same anti-inflammatory and structural effects show up in other parts of the body too, like joint health. So a review that combined results from 9 randomized controlled trials, they found that omega-3 supplements help reduce pain and improve function in osteoarthritis patients.
And that's brilliant, isn't it? And, you know, interestingly, several trials have found that people with rheumatoid arthritis, should I say, taking omega-3 needed less anti-inflammatory medication. Plus, those individuals tended to respond better to standard treatments and reach remission faster.
It is becoming clear that it's one of those topics where you start pulling a thread and realise it connects to practically everything. Heart, brain, mood, joints. It's amazing how many systems omega-3 plays a role in. What are some of the other ones we haven't talked about yet?
Yeah, so there are quite a few, actually. And one big one is eye health. So DHA is a structural component of the retina, and dietary omega-3 intake is linked to a lower risk of age-related macular degeneration. And macular degeneration is a huge consideration for an aging population. But omega-3 isn't just about structure, it also helps regulate inflammation and immune function, which is why we see effects in autoimmune disease research. Like in the VITAL study that Jen mentioned, omega-3 is also really important, of course, for mum and baby during pregnancy.
Totally, and the pregnancy research is really striking. So there was a review of 70 trials involving nearly 20,000 women, and they found that omega-3 supplements reduce the risk of early preterm birth by 42%.
42% reduction in early preterm birth. That's potentially life-changing for families.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, one thing we should address is the omega-6 to omega-3 ratio, because this comes up quite a lot.
It does, and it is important. So both omega-6 and omega-3 are essential fatty acids, and your body does need both. The issue is balance, so they compete for the same metabolic enzymes, and omega-6 derived signaling molecules tend to be more pro-inflammatory, whereas omega-3 derived ones are anti-inflammatory.
So there was a study in the UK of over 85,000 participants, and they found that as the omega-6 to omega-3 ratio increased, so did the risk of death, with the sharpest increase once the ratio exceeded 8-1. And it's interesting to note that most Western diets are estimated at a 15-1 or a 20-1 ratio.
But the answer is not to panic about omega-6, right?
Not at all, no. So you need omega-6. The practical solution is simply to increase your omega-3 intake. If you fix the omega-3 side, the ratio improves naturally.
Okay, so what are the signs that someone might not be getting enough? Because we know that deficiency is incredibly common.
It is, and the signs tend to be things that people attribute to other causes. So dry or irritated skin being one, because omega-3 helps maintain the skin's moisture barrier. Joint stiffness that isn't clearly linked to an injury is another. Then you've got things like poor concentration and brain fog or mood changes, dry eyes, fatigue, even brittle hair and nails. These are all signs of omega-3 deficiency.
So, a whole collection of things that most people would just put down to being tired or getting a bit older, when actually their body might be quietly asking for more omega-3. I reckon half the people listening to this are mentally ticking off at least 2 of those right now.
Probably more than 2. And the frustrating thing is that people spend time and money chasing solutions for symptoms individually. So you might buy a cream for dry skin, take painkillers for your joints, have coffee for the concentration issues, when part of the answer might just be addressing one underlying nutritional gap.
Yeah, that's a really important point. It's not that omega-3 is this kind of magic bullet or miracle cure for all those things, but if you're consistently not getting enough omega-3, those symptoms can stack up quietly over time.
So what should people actually aim for?
So for healthy adults, most health organisations recommend a minimum of 250 to 500 milligrams of combined EPA and DHA daily. For people with existing heart conditions, the recommendation is a bit higher, it's about 1,000 milligrams. And for high blood triglyceride levels, clinical doses can go up to about 4,000 milligrams, but that would be under medical supervision. Our main advice is to be between 500 to 1,000 milligrams per day, which is a really beneficial ongoing daily dose.
And the average person is getting about 100 milligrams a day. That's a huge shortfall.
It really is, and that's why supplementation makes sense for a lot of people. So whether it's an algal-based source like our omega-3 at Vegetology or from oily fish, if that's your preference, the important thing is getting EPA and DHA directly rather than relying on ALA conversion. But just to say, it's highly unlikely that battered fish bites from the frozen food aisles of your supermarket are offering much by way of EPA or DHA at all, unless they've been fortified. So always check these so-called omega-3 rich foods really are rich in omega-3.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It is easy to assume we're getting certain nutrients from headline foods, but that's not always the case.
Well, the safety profile of omega-3 is excellent too, isn't it? So doses up to 5 grams daily are considered generally safe. And if you're not keen on fish, algae-based supplements avoid that fishy aftertaste issue entirely, which is a bonus.
What strikes me is how omega-3 connects to so many things we've talked about in previous episodes. Brain fog, sleep quality, joint health, mood. It keeps showing up.
That's because the mechanism is fundamentally about inflammation and cell function. So every cell membrane in your body contains fatty acids, and the balance of omega-3 in those membranes influences how your cells communicate, how your immune system responds, and how efficiently your brain operates.
It really is foundational. So if you get your omega-3 intake right, you're supporting multiple systems simultaneously. So cardiovascular, neurological, immune, and musculoskeletal.
So what's the simplest starting point for someone listening to this thinking they should probably do something about it?
So for omega-3, as we said previously, the forms that we need are EPA and DHA. That is the key. So a quality omega-3 supplement or foods that are fortified with omega-3 are the most reliable and consistent way to close that gap. If you eat oily fish, that can be a good source, but governments recommend not eating too much oily fish because they can contain potentially high, dangerous levels of mercury and other heavy metals. So let's be honest, it's kind of pointless getting enough omega-3 if the mercury of the fish is sending you a bit crazy. But the overall key is finding an omega-3 EPA and DHA source that works for you, something that you can take daily, because consistency matters more than perfection.
I think that's a message that applies to most health habits, isn't it? The best approach is the one that you're likely to stick to.
Absolutely. And it's worth saying that the research we've discussed today, it isn't fringe science. These are large-scale, peer-reviewed, randomised controlled trials that involve tens of thousands of participants. The evidence base for omega-3, it's growing and it's really strong.
So why do we need omega-3?
We need omega-3 because it's an essential fatty acid that your body cannot manufacture. yet it's a structural component of your brain, your eyes, and every cell membrane in your body. And research shows that it supports cognitive function, it reduces cardiovascular risk, it helps manage inflammation in joints, and it plays a role in mental health, and so much more.
And because most of us aren't getting anywhere near enough, the subtle signs of low omega-3, the dry skin, the brain fog, the achy joints, are easily mistaken for life just being life.
So that's why we need omega-3. And it's worth paying attention to whether you're actually getting enough, rather than just assuming you've got it covered.
So that's it for this week. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button. We're unpacking the science behind everyday questions each week. Tell us in the comments what you'd like us to explore. Thanks for geeking out with us. But for now, that's it from me.
That's it from me.
And that's it from me.
Bye for now.